Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MPR. Episode 466, airing on the 25th of February 2022. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we've got Josh.
Hey!
We had the Elimination Chamber show, the last big special event before WrestleMania 38, and that means we have quite a lot to get through now to head us down the road to WrestleMania. And what better way to kick it off than with the pre-show, the first of 8 matches we will talk about today. Rey Mysterio coming up on the top against The Miz.
Yeah, not really that big of a surprise. It's resulting in a tag team match at WrestleMania. Wasn't exactly expecting that, but I'm fine with it. I know you're not, but I'm fine.
Yeah, look, when you got The Miz versus Rey Mysterio being your pre-show match, somehow you don't expect that to evolve into The Miz and Logan Paul versus the Mysterios at WrestleMania. Like, I get
I'm shocked you actually said his name because you refused to say it last time.
Look, I gotta deal with it, man. This kid is gonna be all over WWE TV yet again until WrestleMania, okay? I can't avoid it forever. I'm gonna have to say it. And yeah, it just wasn't where, at least I personally thought this whole Mysterios and Miz feud was gonna go. And everything I want to call this guy is all words I can't say on the radio. The YouTuber, Happy, I'll go back to not talking about him, was also the last person I was expecting to show back up again in this road to WrestleMania.
I kind of expected it because I've been hearing rumors for a while that he might be involved in WrestleMania. And whether you agree with the definition or not, in regards with Paul, WrestleMania's always had celebrity tie-ins.
Yeah. And I'm sure he won't be the only one with WrestleMania 38 as well. Unfortunately, his deal not being a one and done at last year and him reappearing this year. Look, if he gets in the ring and he actually wrestles and he pulls his part off, then all credit to him, and I'll have a little bit more respect for the performer. But just because I said his name once doesn't mean I respect the man still. Let's talk about the opening match later on, just to combine those ones together. So let's go with a match that had a bit more build towards WrestleMania. Naomi, Ronda Rousey coming out on top of Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville, even if Ronda Rousey had one arm tied behind her back.
Yeah. Still doesn't change the fact that she could have still ripped one of Sonya Deville's arms off and beaten her to death with it. Even with one arm tied behind her back.
To be fair, at the end there, she kind of did rip it off.
Yeah. It was exactly what we expected. Naomi gets a little bit of revenge on Sonya. We might get like a one match at WrestleMania, but that's a real if. And it definitely builds towards Ronda and Charlotte, towards that main event at WrestleMania.
And that really was the whole point here. This was just a match that was a stopgap to get both Charlotte and Ronda Rousey still talked about, still going up against each other, but obviously not throwing away that big WrestleMania match they have later on down the line. So it did its purpose. As you said, Naomi and Sonya are a bit of secondary characters, I guess, in this part, but Naomi did get a little bit of a rub there working with Ronda and Charlotte in this little feud here. We had a Falls Count Anywhere match. Unfortunately, no concession stand, but we did have Drew McIntyre playing football and spiking Madcap Moss.
Yeah, that was a scary botch. It's a good thing Moss is okay, but that was scary looking.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like legit worried. My partners who were next to me as I was watching it were like, what was that reaction to? As I'm like recoiling on the couch, worried. It did not look good. But as you say, everything coming out that Moss is okay. No neck injury, x-rays coming up clean, concussion I think coming up clean as well even. Good for him. Let's hope it all stays clean and stays good, because it was a pretty bad spike. But overall for the match, I think it really is just heating up that Drew McIntyre Happy Corbin match at WrestleMania. I don't see any other way now. Like, when we have these matches at the Chamber or on Raw or on SmackDown, we can definitely start to see what the card is that they want to shape up heading forward, and it is McIntyre versus Corbin.
Which is fine. You can't... you had McIntyre in the main event in the last 2 years. So it's not like it's that big of a deal, because he's still important. And he's got a program with a upper guy that's also been pretty important. So... over the years, so it's not that big of a deal that he's facing off against Happy Corbin, because you can't have him in the main event every single year.
No, and most likely Drew McIntyre will win this match as well. Maybe in some weird universe, Corbin ends up coming up with the win, but I do think Drew McIntyre will be victorious in that one. The last match that we don't have to combo with anything, the Usos versus the Viking Raiders, never really got to go.
There was a match. I think this was just because they wanted to stopgap it, because they didn't want the match to happen right now, and to give more of an incentive for the Viking Raiders to try to overcome the bloodline, which I think they will do at WrestleMania.
Yeah, this definitely does scream, WrestleMania rematch. And in this case, I could very likely see the Viking Raiders coming out with the win. We've talked from time to time about the strength or lack thereof in the tag team divisions for both Raw and SmackDown. And the Viking Raiders are your next best shot. If the New Day are not going to take the titles off the Usos, you might as well give it to Eric and Ivar, right? They are two tough and tumble guys who can put up a good fight, and I guess storyline-wise, having the Usos attacking them here sort of, as you say, adds incentive, but also shows that maybe the Usos weren't so sure about winning against the Viking Raiders and had to put a little bit of a stop to it themselves, not wanting to take them on, and sort of giving them a bit of a rub that way too.
Yeah, it was all about storytelling, which is so important in professional wrestling. Long term, especially, and sometimes it's better to have some long term stories than just quickly tossed out match. So yeah, I liked that they didn't go to a no contest, and they're going to continue the feud, and that eventually we're going to get that moment where we see them actually in the ring taking off, and I do think it will end with the Viking Raiders claiming the titles.
Well, only one way to find out, and that is called waiting until April. But before then, we have the 4 big boy matches that need to be tied together that we will talk about when we get back from our entrance theme this week. Our entrance theme this week, which Josh has picked for us, is going to be that of the American Bad A, the biker version that The Undertaker had around for a little while. And that song's playing for you right about now.
Dead man walking. You've done it now. You've done it. Hey, you're gonna pay. I'm gonna bring you.
And you're back for Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. Do you want to tackle the women's division, or do you want to tackle the men's division first?
Let's go women's. It's easier to go about.
Yeah, well, we got about, let me do some quick math in my head, about 18 minutes left of the show to do both of them, so we'll do women's up first. Becky Lynch and Lita, they fought for the Raw Women's Championship. Good little 12-minute match, longest non-chamber match on the card, and ultimately Becky Lynch retaining.
Yeah, exactly what we expected. It showed Lita could still have a decent match. Becky is Becky. I can't really say much more. And they definitely brought it. And they really pumped up Becky with that kick out of that moonsault. To make her more important for our eventual showdown with our chamber winner. But yeah, so I think it was more about Lita just showing what she still has left in the tank.
Yeah, and that was the big surprise to me. Like, when I was looking at this match, obviously we all saw Becky Lynch coming out as the winner, especially after the chamber match. There was almost no chance Lita wins, but for Lita to go a solid 12 minutes, putting on an amazing match and doing the storytelling that they did for what was a filler match, you know, because there was never any doubt in what direction they were going with, bar, you know, a massive botch on their part. And they decided, hey, to heck with it. We're not just going to be a filler match. We're going to be one of those matches that people remember and people talk about. And there was quite a few people on that night talking about Lita and talking about how well she looked, having so long away from the ring in a proper match. And I do wonder if they try to slot her in somewhere now with WrestleMania. Obviously not in either of the Women's Championship matches, but to slot her in somewhere.
It's very likely. We might see her in like the Women's Battle Royal. It's possible we may see a match here and there. It depends on what Lita wants to do.
Yeah.
That said, it reminds me of when Charlotte faced Trish a few years ago. There was no doubt Charlotte was going to win, but it was more. That match was also more about showing what Trish still had in the tank. So, and I think that was the benefit of them working with who they did. Charlotte's the best woman on the planet in wrestling. Do we have stands or butts about it? That said, Becky Lynch is not that shabby either. And so having them work with them just makes perfect sense, and was just worked with their styles because they can work so well with other styles. So I think this may have also been like Lita's maybe swan song that she may be like, this is a match I want to go out on as well, which I'd be perfectly fine with.
Yeah, it definitely seemed as though from the end of the match. But now we know Becky Lynch will be the Raw Women's Champion heading into WrestleMania 38, and we do know her opponent as well, as we had the Elimination Chamber match letting us know. Firstly, just for all of the eliminations, Rhea Ripley eliminated Nikki ASH, then Liv Morgan eliminated Doudrop, Alexa Bliss eliminated Liv Morgan, and then Bianca Belair eliminated both Rhea Ripley and Alexa Bliss to eventually become the winner.
Yeah, this was a somewhat quick chamber match, but it was also had a few spots in it. I mean, it wasn't a bad match. I felt like it really did serve its purpose. We all knew Bianca was winning. It's just that this story they've been building since SummerSlam. It would be completely pointless to change now, even with Alexa.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, but so yeah, we're getting Bianca versus Becky at WrestleMania for some sort of culmination on that whole storyline. In one way or another. It does leave some questions about where they go with some of the other ladies, especially Alexa. But it's definitely there's definitely a lot more talent in the women's division now than there was, say, a year ago or so. That's being built up.
Yeah, a couple of questions around, I guess, bigger names that were in that chamber match. As you say, Alexa Bliss, one of them, Rhea Ripley, the other. On just where exactly they could land in a WrestleMania card. You know, will they end up in some weird women's tag team match? Will they end up just being thrown into the Battle Royal? We just don't quite know where everybody's future lines up. But it did seem as though they wanted to showcase both Alexa Bliss and to a lesser extent Rhea Ripley, but there's got to be some sort of spot on the card given the recent return and the build-up and the therapy angles for Alexa Bliss. We just can't quite see how that puzzle piece fits into the greater puzzle just yet. The only piece we know, as you say, Becky Bianca.
Yeah. WrestleMania is still going to be a 2-night event. There's still a lot that does make a lot of room for more matches. I could easily see Rhea versus Nikki at that event. I could easily see that being like an undercard match. So there are still options, and so yeah, let's see where they go. But one thing we do know is we're staring down a collision course. Bianca Belair trying to redeem herself from her 26-second match. Becky.
Personally, I hope she does.
I'd personally make it a 26-minute match.
They deserve it, for sure. And then if we take a look at the men's division then, opening match of the night, Roman Reigns versus Goldberg. Again, another stopgap, another technicality, but it was Goldberg. We couldn't count him out because he just is Goldberg. But eventually Roman Reigns did manage to make him tap out and add him just to the long list of people that Roman Reigns has gone through in this current title reign of his.
Yeah, that was I think that's the first time Goldberg's ever been submitted. I don't remember of it happening in WCW, although the last couple of years I wasn't paying much attention to WCW, so it might have happened somewhere in there. But that was definitely the first time it happened in WWE. Yeah, it just makes Roman that much bigger of a star. He's definitely the guy. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no 1A and 1B situation here. It's definitely Roman and then everybody else.
At, just for clarification, WCW Starrcade 1999, Bret Hart defeated Goldberg in a no disqualifications match with a submission. That is the only other time that Goldberg had been submitted in a match.
And I believe, if I remember correctly, that was because of an NWO reformation. So it wasn't a technical, actual submission. If I remember correctly. Now that I think about that.
I didn't watch 1999 WCW.
I didn't expect you to.
But yeah, as you say, Roman Reigns, number one guy. And then after the outcome of the Elimination Chamber match, it's setting pretty much everything up kind of down the direction that not necessarily we'd hoped, but the area that we'd seen and maybe not discussed as much because it wasn't as intriguing or as interesting, at least to me. But we had our Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship. Unfortunately, Bobby Lashley was unable to compete in the match. Kayfabe, because a door cracked open and hurt his ankle and sent him into concussion protocol. In reality, he needed surgery before the match, and they needed to take the title off of him somehow. But the match ended in exactly the same way we expected, which was Brock Lesnar just single-handedly destroying every member of the match.
Including his pod, because he couldn't wait for his turn.
Yeah, he just had to wait a little bit longer for his pod to open, and nope, just kick it on down.
Yeah. It was alright. Obviously, there was more story to this. Definitely get well soon, Bobby.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And I would say also, I think Austin Theory is a made man now.
He did last, about 4 minutes in the ring? Mano-a-mano with Brock Lesnar?
Yeah. I think, I honestly, calling it now, Money in the Bank winner.
Locking it in.
I'm locking it in 5 months in advance. Those predictions tend to happen when I'm that far ahead. But I think people are really beginning to like Austin Theory as a bad guy. So I really think they're building him the right way. Yeah, the stuff with Vince is sometimes hokey and stuff, but people genuinely do not enjoy him, and the selfie stuff is always hilarious to me. And I just think they're slowly building him to a point where you can see him as the world champion.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think at WrestleMania, he'll probably win the U.S. title and hold it for a couple months, then win the briefcase in July, and then we'll see where they go from there. But having him not be eliminated 15 seconds after AJ was eliminated was a big step. Having him go 20 minutes in the Rumble was a big step. And then the coup de grace for it, pardon Finn Balor, because he came back on Monday, that F5 off the top of the cage.
Yeah, it was definitely a star-making performance. For the first 10 minutes before Brock Lesnar decided to get interrupted into the match, we had Theory, Styles, Riddle, Rollins, trading back and forth, putting on a great match, and then it was just person by person by person, and yeah, Austin Theory looked like, not like he was going to win it, but storyline-wise, like he'd almost cracked the code to beating Brock Lesnar, and then ended up going on a wild goose chase, running around, and yeah, as you say, that F5 off of the top of the pod, just landing Theory down. That'll be something that's in videos, that's in GIFs, that's played back and back and back. It is one of those highlight moments. Even if he's on the receiving end of said move, it is going to be in a highlight reel forever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so similar to Brock Lesnar's failed superstar star press, shooting star press. That's still played in video packages to this day. But I want to take a look at those times of those pinfalls from when Brock Lesnar entered the match.
Mm-hmm.
Seth Rollins was eliminated at 9:50. 15 seconds later, Riddle was eliminated. 55 seconds later, AJ Styles was eliminated. It took 3 minutes and 55 seconds for Brock Lesnar to eliminate Austin Theory.
It was taking him that long just to catch him, to be fair.
Yeah, but so yeah, I just think there's so much they are investing a lot in Austin, obviously, but I really think that they're beginning to see a payoff on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at some point down the road, we're going to see Austin Theory as WWE champion. If that championship still exists, it may be the Universal Championship. At that point, we won't know because both titles are on the line at WrestleMania, and we may see one of the titles get retired, for all we know.
Yeah, I guess we've talked a lot about the star-making performance of Austin Theory and not the knock-on effect. We do know our main event of WrestleMania, the last match that will be happening on Night 2, the big headliner, the thing that will be in the posters, in the banners. That is the match of WrestleMania 38, will be Brock Lesnar coming in as the WWE Champion, taking on Roman Reigns coming in as the Universal Champion in a winners-take-all match. And I'm sure as we get closer and closer, we'll probably discuss this match more and more and more. But Lesnar versus Reigns was kind of the expected headline for this WrestleMania anyway, right?
Yeah. It was just a matter of, is there going to be a title on the line or not? Turned out, there's 2 titles on the line.
That was kind of the options.
It was 0 titles, 1 title, 2 titles. And it's fine. Honestly, I haven't seen the need for 2 world champions for a while now, especially with the 60 releases over the last 18 months. So yeah, I'm fine with them getting rid of one of the world titles and just going back to the WWE Championship, because I honestly can't see them getting rid of that with its 60 years of lineage for the Universal Championship that has 7.
Yeah, I could still see the titles remaining as separate entities. I don't know where they want to go after this match, and that's the big question mark. Obviously who wins is the first question mark, but the second question mark is then, You know, do they hold both belts and eventually split them apart, as Becky kind of did, or are we merging them together, as you say, into one big undisputed WWE champion? And we just don't know that yet.
We don't know that, but I'd say by the personalities of both Brock and Roman, I don't see them defending both titles the way Becky did.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I'd almost be certain that if they do unify the titles, they will unify the titles. There won't be any separating them.
Gotcha. Well,
what I'd like to see personally, I'd like to see a 2 falls match personally, one for each title, and then and that way you still have an option to split the titles if you want it.
Well, we will have to wait and see what they do at WrestleMania, because for this week's episode, we are all out of time. It's been great talking to you.
Bye, B.
Visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/WrestlingRND-up, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/WrestlingRND-up, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/WrestlingRND-up, and we will catch you next week.